Hello, Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise here, continuing the conversation about errors in board game production and documentation, the impact that it can have on the user experience, and what, if anything, can be done to prevent these types of issues from happening in the first place. Well, the gut reaction to the question of how to prevent production errors is to establish better systems, tighter procedures, and stricter protocols during the production process. But I believe that that approach on its own is flawed and results in just as many production errors. No, instead, to truly have a chance at eradicating errors, a board game publisher needs to go a step deeper, changing their fundamental approach to developing a game. Producing a dud board game is certainly costly to a publisher, but it pales in comparison to the risk taken by oil companies every time they break ground on a new oil well. Here's a lesson that the board game industry can learn from the oil industry. By the late 1980s, oil deposits were becoming harder and harder to find. Now, digging an oil well is a very expensive endeavor, but even so, only 1 out of every 8 new wells successfully strikes oil. Now, those other 7 failed wells are what oil companies refer to as a dry hole. The company BP wanted to drastically reduce the cost of their failure rate, with the goal of reducing their expenses by a whopping 80%. To accomplish this, they changed their oil drilling policy. Now, was their new policy to do better and drill smarter? No. Their drilling policy simply became no dry holes. No room for being close, and no learning from their mistakes so they'd do better next time. Nope. The mandate was simply 0 dry holes. At first, many at BP scoffed at this idea. But then something happened. Since every employee from top to bottom now had a clear, concise, shared objective, every fragment of data, every step in preparation, and every potential drilling location began to be evaluated against the criteria of 0 dry holes being drilled. The result? By the year 2000, BP's success rate had risen from 1 out of 8 to an industry-leading 2 out of 3. That is a substantial chunk of change saved. So what can the board game industry learn from this? Well, by adopting a no dry holes mentality, every design meeting, production policy, document edit, file transfer, and print proof, they all start to automatically be checked against the question of what errors could be introduced in this step of the process, and how do we prevent it before it even happens? The result is production errors are caught before they continue to the next step of development. Now, of course, putting all of this into practice is far easier said than done, but having one simple, single, finite, concrete rule to weigh all development decisions against results in those better systems, tighter procedures, and stricter protocols that companies usually try starting with. The result that follows naturally is fewer dry holes, or in this case, fewer board games with typos and production problems, and an overall far higher success rate for the industry. Got too much spit in my mouth.